Welcome to Analytics Unscripted. We have a wonderful guest in this episode, someone we know really well, and hopefully you've probably come across her before, Juliana Jackson. Bhav, long-term friend of yours as well. We just finished speaking with her, and we covered a lot.
We did, yeah. I think I think Juliana had to be the first guest, the first non-you and I episode, because I think she brings a lot of value, a lot of experience, a lot of knowledge and opinions. And I think you kind of need that to kind of kick off a podcast that's potentially been a bit dormant. And I think the stuff we talked about, and considering this is an unscripted podcast, it actually started off very nicely. And there was this discussion around AI and what it is and what it isn't and the role of it. And we kind of then naturally evolved that into the marketing and analytics space. But we kind of stepped aside a little bit on the marketing analytics side of things and just talked about marketing on a bit more philosophical level and how algorithms are potentially squishing creativity. And then we kind of brought it back round again in a really nice circular way around marketing analytics, measurement and communication. So we're aiming for shorter episodes, but I think for a first episode, this was fascinating. I don't know about you, but I definitely could have gone on for another 30, 40 minutes.
For sure. And look, the seed of this podcast come from the kind of conversations you have after a conference in a pub or, on a walk somewhere. And very rarely would you go for a beer with someone for 30 minutes. It is generally a longer period of time. And so, yes, we're kind of cutting these a little bit short. But the beautiful thing about this is we can always have more. So
you wouldn't go to the pub with someone for a beer for 30 minutes with a list of questions. That's the important thing.
Well, without further ado, here's our chat with Juliana. Hello, Juliana Jackson. How are you? Who are you? Introduce yourself for us, please.
Why are you?
Why are we doing introductions anymore? Doesn't everybody know I'm the shit right now? Do I have to introduce? Kidding. I'm Juliana. Thanks for inviting me. How are you guys doing? Welcome to another episode of Standard Deviation Podcast.
Here we go. That's it. That's why you said yes to come on.
We're 30 seconds in and Juliana's already plugging her own podcast. Love it.
I'm a very entrepreneurial guest.
I love it. So, Juliana, welcome to the podcast. Since we last spoke, Dan and I have obviously moved over from the Measure Pod to start Analytics Unscripted. This is a podcast like nothing we've done before. It's completely unscripted. We don't have a plan. We haven't sent you a list of questions, and we are going to pretty much freestyle this and hope that it turns into an interesting discussion. The idea is that if we invite interesting people on, we'll get interesting discussions. So where are you right now, Juliana? Where are you working?
I'm at Jellyfish. I'm my job title just changed. So it sounds fancy. I'm a AI strategy and growth director, which basically means I just build cool stuff pretty much. I don't work in data analytics anymore or CRO. Still love the people in the community for sure. Yay. I'm just more in other things these days, more media, more different types of uses for analytics than web or app analytics.
I was going to say, with the rise of AI, do any of us really work in data anymore?
Yes, I think there's a whole community on LinkedIn that continues to live in data. Don't start me on this because I want to get cancelled.
No, now that we've started it, Juliana, we're going straight into it. That's the whole point of this being unscripted.
Back to your question, I think for sure the lines are becoming very blurry into what really is or not digital analytics or web analytics. Discuss.
Well, I don't think the concept of digital analytics or web analytics has been around for a long time. Even the word analytics, I don't think is defined. I did a whole piece years ago where I did a survey of it wasn't a lot of people, but I think I got between a live event and a forum I got about 100 responses of the definition of the word analytics, and there was none that could agree. And we all work in analytics. This podcast uses the word analytics in the title, but no one really agrees what it means. And I think that's the odd thing about this industry. I think everyone, you could say the word analytics and mean web analytics 15 years ago. You could say the word analytics today and mean data science. Do you know what I mean? I don't think it means what it used to. It has changed, but I don't think we can agree. And it's probably a bad term to use in general.
Yeah, but let's not go there because then we're going to turn around into why is CRO? Shouldn't be experimentation, shouldn't be optimization, shouldn't it be I don't know with names. I think we do like to put labels on things because I guess it's in our human biome to be part of groups. We have that primal need to be part of how do you call them? How do you call a pack of wolves? Part of a pack, yes. to be part
Well,
of the.
look, speaking of labels, Juliana, you've got the label AI in your job title now. So tell us what the hell that means.
It means that, I mean, all of us, I guess, in the digital marketing industry, are getting top-down AI mandates in our companies. Or if you're an agency like myself, you get to work with companies that have top-down AI mandates in the company. So that means that you need to basically get with the program and, I guess, learn what's happening in the market. How can you protect your clients from making bad decisions or investing in solutions that ultimately, I guess, wouldn't serve their business model or serve the goals that they want to do? I guess I have AI in my title because I've been, tinkering with artificial intelligence since my time at Monks, and I've built, different products that use artificial intelligence. And I guess it's kind of like my role is to basically build things, but also help my clients set up guardrails, so that everything that has AI in this title besides me is good, right?
I want to touch on something. I've got to ask you, what are your thoughts? Why is there such a push for a top-down AI mandate? Like, why are companies and employers pushing an AI agenda from the top down?
Well, it's gonna take an answer in three parts probably. I guess first, my first instinct is to say fear of missing out. But behind that fear, I guess it's a big propaganda machine that is going on right now in, I guess, all parts of the market, and everybody is just trying to look busy, trying to look like they're innovating, trying to look like they're doing things. Listen, like I said this in so many podcasts and in my newsletter, AI has been around for 50 years now. It's just, I think what happened with large language model, and it's just that they have a bigger total addressable market because they are targeting people that are non-technical. You don't need the nerds in the room anymore. You need the people that have some sort of technical savviness and can figure things out. So it makes it look easy. So when you make something look easy, it's quite dangerous for companies because they say, well, if so-and-so are doing this, why shouldn't we have this? But ultimately, I get it. I work in this environment and I don't blame or judge anybody. I just think it's the way the market goes. We have something new and everyone wants to be part of it. Everybody wants to do something with it. But that doesn't mean it's always going to be useful or it's going to go well. Yeah.
I think this is fundamentally one of the challenges, right? So you mentioned that everyone's doing it, so we should do it. Now, this is not new, that concept of everyone's doing it, so we should do it, right? Like, it's like when big data was a thing, everyone's doing it, we should do it, right? But at least in the past, when everyone was doing it or claiming to do it, we knew what they were doing or what the outcome of it was or what they were working towards.
Correct.
I think right now, something that's unclear to me, and I work in a very AI-first organization, is what is it that we're all working towards? Like, I get the point of adoption of AI, and I've heard like loads of things floating around efficiencies and time saved and pace of delivery, but like, what is that thing we're working towards in your opinion?
Well, you said the word efficiency. It's actually a question. It's efficiency and effectiveness. It's always two things, right? Efficiency, sure, but is it also effective? Like, is it something that will ultimately change or improve the way we perform our day-to-day business? Is it going to affect the revenue? Because the revenue is the question that everybody, it's all about the money. Doing this and this and that, will this positively impact our revenue, or is going to be a huge cost to operate this, huge cost to maintain a solution and admins and so on, that ultimately is not going to help us make more money, but it's going to make us, I guess, send emails faster or reply to emails faster, or I don't know, I guess generate 3 messages for our landing pages. Like, what is the problem? Like, I think, and in the end of the day, it's all about use cases, right? Like, what are you trying to solve that you haven't been able to solve so far with classical or traditional methods? And I'll give you an example. Everybody is fucking obsessed to put agents on analytics tools. And I asked, okay, great, but what are you trying to solve? Yeah, because the dashboards and stuff like this, and we have a distribution problem. It's like, no, we don't have a data distribution platform. In fact, analytics data has never been more distributed. Like, there's so many tools where you can visualize data, work with data, manipulate data. We don't need another distribution of data. We need to make data part of the process, of the decision-making process, of the creative or media planning process. But everybody is just trying to showcase, but I want to make the data look different and I want to talk to my agent about how many sessions I had last week. Okay, so what the fuck are you going to do with it? Because your stakeholders are going to ignore the agent, just they're going to ignore a dashboard. Do you really see a stakeholder being in a meeting? Oh, what? Traffic? Yes, let me just go and talk to Skippy and ask Skippy, how did we do last month so I can look good in a meeting? Nobody gives a fuck. Sorry.
This is your okay cool questions all over again, Bhav, right? It's
They are
the
the
and now
okay
they can
thanks,
answer
yeah.
themselves, which is great. But they're just going to go now. They're going to have that immediate like, what the fuck did I ask that question for? Like they're going to notice it themselves, hopefully.
Yeah. Julian, you said it's not a distribution problem,
No,
right? So we
not
we
for
we
me at least.
and to be fair, I actually kind of agree with you. Like I think in many organizations the challenges in distribution of analytics, although we like to believe it is, right? In most cases, for anyone who wants it, the data is there, it's available, it's accessible. So what is it then? If we know what it's not, what is it? Quote Moses, like, if you're so sure what it ain't, how about telling us what it am?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of ways you can use it in your processes. I think in media planning, in media creation, campaign management. I think AI for marketing and advertising is a huge, huge opportunity because there I'm gonna start from the basics of, advertising. You need an audience, you need a goal, you need to target. So if you think about it, like where is the audience nowadays? Is our audience is perusing websites? Do you think people only buy, for instance, you Bob because you work at Huel? Do you think people find out from the website necessarily? No. They're gonna look for they're on a diet, they're looking for meal replacements, they're gonna end up on Reddit, they're gonna go on YouTube, they're gonna go back on Reddit, they're gonna go on TikTok, and then they're gonna go to your website to check that if what people say on Reddit or on YouTube fits with what you're saying on the website. But that decision is being done in a very decentralized way that you cannot control as a brand. It's what people are saying. So how do you measure all that stuff that happens to help when you run an ad campaign? So to be able to reach those decentralized places, you do need artificial intelligence because the scale of those conversations is very big. So this is a good way to use these models to basically pull the data from Reddit, pull the data from different platforms, look at YouTube discovery data, search discovery data, share of model, all of these things. You do need artificial intelligence because this is not something that we can solve with GA4 or with Amplitude or all these tools that we have because they were not built for autonomous entities that make decisions on their own. So it's because we don't have that much control over the story that we say because people come with a story that they already make, themselves to our website. It's good for us to use it as a research tool and then use that data to, in our decision process for how we create better assets, how we create better campaigns, how do we position better and so on. So I see that's a great use case for it. One
Haven't
of
we
them at
always
least.
done that? Haven't we always done this? Like, I don't
Did
like.
we?
We've talked. I mean, we're kind of like flirting with the edges of attribution modeling now, right? So unless you're talking about going beyond attribution model, like this is not new. I think maybe the only thing is that maybe previously you might have had to rely on a platform to do it. You can do it yourself, but the ability to do it has always existed.
I'm not thinking about attribution. I'm because it's yes, sure, we do need channel understanding and performance, but I'm thinking about the qualitative data that exists at scale on these platforms. Because sure, you can see that a sale came from Reddit or a sale came from YouTube, but do you know exactly what caused? It's kind of like, I like to give this example of multi-arm bandits. When you run a multi-arm bandit test, you can run hundreds of them and you know that one won, but you don't know why, because the multi-arm bandit cannot do marginal value assessment and is only good to detecting what is the local optima. So basically, if you think about attribution, they're only detecting what is the good local optima, but you don't have the nuance of how a conversion happened. What was the cultural moment that sparked a purchase? What was the cultural conversation? What were the trends on social when that happened? What are people saying about you? What is your brand perception?
I think it makes sense. I think so I spend a lot of my time now working less in kind of quote unquote traditional analytics or what we would consider web analytics and things like that, but more in like the kind of marketing signals tracking, optimization strategy, like all that kind of lovely stuff. And what it always comes back to is like we can talk quite broad and big about this kind of stuff, but then the bid optimizations still happen on an attribution model, which is a black box within the algorithms and stuff. And so ultimately, like your campaigns are still bidding to a signal whether we like it or not, and we can't necessarily do it ourselves. And we could take a lot of learnings from that. But then it's the classic question then, how do you connect a lot of this learning and clever stuff to the actual impact of like something as simple as how do I adjust bids and activate that in Google Ads or YouTube or something like that? That's the hard
Love
part,
the
right?
question. Love the question. So I haven't obviously solved this yet because if I would, would be very well paid, right? And, do TED Talks. But my hypothesis, Bob, you see I'm using hypothesis.
Take the girl out of CRO. Take the girl out of CRO, but you can't take the CRO
Yes.
out of the girl, right?
And I'm going to use this soft Eastern European voice to say it, this accent. No, so my hypothesis is this. Okay, we are fucked from a customer journey perspective. We don't have visibility, zero click, all this doom and gloom. What is the one thing that follows people wherever they are that is in the control of the brand? This is an actual question for you guys.
What is
The
the one
one
thing?
thing that is in the control of the brand to put out there that follows people across channels, across different experiences, and is the only thing that goes into these places?
I'm gonna say cookies.
Yeah, that's a fair response, but I'm talking about the creative asset. When
Okay.
you
I was
build
going see. I wasn't sure if this was a trick question because I was going to go like
the
messaging and
cookies is
creative,
fair
and
though.
then
The
but then I
cookies
thought like cookies was the thing that this might be a trick question for.
Sorry, that was funny. Yeah. No, so it's the
Can you,
creative
could you imagine if this was fucking cookies after all this? You'd come back to using cookies and being like ever
Yeah.
present anywhere.
Yeah, you also blew my whole spiel that I had in my head. Anyway, yes, so it's not cookies, it's a creative asset. So across all our channels that we market in, the creative asset is that you're walking down the street, you see it, or in the subway, you see it, you're on TikTok, on Reddit. Like, this is the only thing that we still have control over. So back to what you were saying earlier, Dan, with the signals, on YouTube specifically, I'm obsessed with YouTube nowadays. On YouTube specifically, the creative is the signal. Because YouTube right now, the way YouTube AI works, has basically leveled the playing field for everybody. So if you have demand gen campaigns on YouTube, you are all fighting for the same audience. The only thing that is able to target, quote unquote, this audiences is what is in your creatives. YouTube's algorithm, for example, has a set of flags that they use to scrutinize the creatives that people put. You have the in-stream standards, so the classic ads that you skip. And then you have the shorts, which the biggest fear there is you swipe. So for each of these, Google a few years ago has created a set of flags. Like, do you see the brand in the first 5 seconds? Do you have a super? Do you have an influencer? Do you mention the product at this second? So all of these are scrutinizing the creative asset. So what you can do in this context, what you are asking is you test the asset pre-flight for YouTube and you see how are you scoring against all of these considerants that the YouTube algorithm has. So knowing that stuff, then you obviously are able to go back and do some creative amendments. So you are making sure that you're reaching the right audiences because the creative is going to be the thing that ultimately targets. So the better your creative is, the more relevant it is to the audience and the goal of the campaign, the most likely you will have a chance to do better. And when I say AI on this case, I'm not talking. So when I say AI, I never think about LLMs. Very rarely I think about LLMs. But this is classic machine learning. This is regression modeling. This is basically an asset decomposition. You take an asset and you decompose it in all these components, and then you map across the specific flags that YouTube has, best practices, platform best practices. And then once you decompose this asset, then you are able to see how are you scoring against them. And if you do this pre-flight and you test pre-flight before you invest any money in your budget, on YouTube specifically, you save the 14 days where the asset spends time in the learning phase. So you don't waste 2 weeks of budget and you go your day one ready. This is kind of like what I'm saying, like there's methods, machine learning methods, which are AI in the end, and different like classic statistics that you can use to model this unstructured data that you find on different platforms that helps you, I guess, optimize what you can control. So I guess maybe your question is, how can we do better with what we can control? And the website for me is important still, for sure, but it's not as important as the asset. I see the asset as the storefront, the messaging, the copy, the door opener. Like, that's the only thing that chases people across where they are. Does that make sense?
It does. I think there was an interesting thing I heard recently, though, where 30 years ago, you could tell a lot about the brand by the asset. But with AI now, you say level the playing field. Even a brand with an absolute dogshit product can produce an incredibly slick asset, which is no longer reflective of the actual brand itself. And we've all seen it. You know, we've seen something on Instagram, we've seen something we thought, this is cool. And you go to the website and it's like been hacked together or something like that. So you're saying that if the website and stuff doesn't matter, well, it matters, but
it doesn't matter.
No, but it does matter, but it's not. It doesn't matter as much as the asset does. We haven't leveled the playing field because now everyone's just using AI to just produce the same slop that is algorithm optimized.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, when I say the asset matters more for me, I'm thinking in my head that we already sorted out the website. We're good. Everything is fine. We're doing a good job. But we are using the creative assets to target versus trying to get people to our landing pages on the website, they will still end up there if people have the motivation to do so. But to produce that motivation and that intent, you need to use the assets, because that's kind of where intent and motivation is built. It's, of course, one thing what you have said about yourself online, but then it's kind of like how you show up. Now, for sure, if you have the most amazing assets and then you go to a shit website using Urchin, yeah, that's a big problem. You definitely have to continue to optimize everywhere, but you have to tell the same story. And I guess, what is the website role? That's the question. Like, what is the website role nowadays?
Did you ever see I think it was around the time that the new Charlie and the Chocolate Factory movie came out, there was this event in Scotland which had used AI to produce the most amazing Charlie and the Chocolate Factory Willy Wonka type experience. And then when people actually got there, it was just in a hall with people dressed as characters and like a candy station here and there. But it was completely disconnected from... Anyway, my mind just went there.
Fire Festival.
Fire Festival is another example of it. Juliana, help our audience understand pre-flight for those that don't know. And by the way, that's a podcaster technique. I'm sure you do it yourself. For when you don't understand something, you say, for those in our audience who don't understand, what is pre-flight?
No, so industry standards for advertising place basically a campaign in 3 phases. You have pre-flight, so this is before the campaign goes live. You have in-flight when the campaign is live, and then you have post after the campaign is over. So in pre-flight, what you want to do is to make sure that, first of all, your asset fits the platform best practices. You have the appropriate audience set up, you have the appropriate goals and strategies in whatever you're advertising in. I'm thinking about, if we think about YouTube, that's kind of like it, which is similar for Google Ads, but that's another story. This is very important, and it's kind of like very similar to CRO. Let's say you want to create a new landing page. You want to test it before you push it to the whole audience, right? So it's like it's not an A/B test, it's a multivariate test in this case. And you just want to test this before. The only difference here is that you're not testing the asset in front of people. You're basically testing the asset with your historical data. So imagine that you have a repository of all your past campaigns. And when I say this, I imagine you have labeling and taxonomy, and that never happens, but I'm a positive person. So what you do is you take this asset and you create a response surface of your historical data, and you see where is your asset fitting based on your historical data. That means that, of course, the new asset needs to be decomposed, so you can see what were the elements of the new asset. How did the elements of the new assets performed in the past? What was the CTR? What was the spend? What was the frequency? That's if you are doing it seriously like that. If you want to look at performance, if you want to look at more emotional branding targeting, you just do the ABCD. And ABCD, the way I do it is I've built everything in Google Cloud. I'm using a library basically that I'm using computer vision, knowledge graph API, cloud buckets. It's a mixture of things that I'm using. And I put the assets in the cloud bucket, and then I just run my code in the notebook. And I'm able to basically look specifically for those things. And then I'm using Gemini 2.5 on top, so it synthesizes the response and it gives me a text-like answer and says, hey, this fits, this does not fit. And classically, the way you would do this ABCD, so YouTube ABCD, attention, branding, connection, and direction. These are their 4 principles for ads that work. It's the same for shorts. It's just that the flags are different from short to in-stream ads. So what I do is I upload this into my cloud bucket. I run the code for long forms, which is the classic ad. I run the code for short, and then I see where I'm missing. So what I did interestingly with the team that I'm working with is, because we got like yes and no, we transformed this into flags and transformed them to numbers because they were Boolean before, so we can get the score. So then you get this asset in pre-flight, and it tells you, let's say, I know for sure, like if you have under 50% of all these elements that you need to have, the asset is not going to perform. So you can go back to your media planning team or your creative team and say, hey, these are the things that didn't score well for the asset. These are the changes we need to do. So when we go live, we don't, waste budget on a asset that will not fit the YouTube algorithm. If you are talking about TikTok or Meta or other platforms, it's kind of the same principles. It's not ABCD, but they have their own best practices. So it's super important to test pre-flight if you can.
Do you find pushback from that often? And people are willing to test this creative against that? Do you have to kind of edge them into this before they go, okay, cool, we'll just redo our assets before pushing it live? Or how do you find the reality of taking that, learning about stuff and pushing it back to the marketing team, the advertisers?
I guess it depends. If the changes are very, very big, It's not easy to go back and do these changes on an asset. I think here again things will change in time since many generation tools for assets, and it's easier then because then you just prompt out the change. But if you have like a classic advertising, when you go and fly out a team to, I don't know, Costa Rica and you film for a whole week, it's a bit complicated. So then is when you like they are open to test. But then the part of changing the asset afterward is a discussion of trade-offs. Like, what can we change to make this better? But like, there's some things you cannot change specifically. But people are pretty open. It's not like in CRO, like you don't have to really sell the A/B testing part, which is good but it's also, I think, the incentive in advertising is bigger because it's budgets, right? It's revenue. Like you don't want to waste, I don't know, 100K in 2 weeks for a shitty asset. Like you want to make sure that you have the best possible outcome. So I do find people more open to the idea of testing in advertising for sure, which is nice.
Do you find that over the last couple of years, with the kind of dominance and the speed of the AI generated aspects or adapted stuff, that the whole classic old school concept of the hippo, the highest paid person's opinion, has actually diminished? Or do you still find that no, the CMO has said we're doing this and so we're doing this, and then you're having to work around it?
I guess it depends on the company, right? And the business model. Like if you have a traditional brand, a global traditional brand that have been doing things in a way for a long time. And I like to give this example. I went to a conference a month or so ago in Germany. It was called the DryCon. And at this conference, I watched this panel. It was Netflix ads, Google, Beiersdorf, Unilever, and Cosnova. And Cosnova is one of our clients. Shouts out to them. In this panel, it was this lady from Beiersdorf, and we were talking about connected TV ads. And she said, and I will never forget this for a long time, she said, my buyer is a 40-year-old woman that watches TV and just sees the next Nivea product and just goes and buys it retail. So if you're a company that you function in a retail business model, classic retail, no e-commerce, no direct to consumer, and you live off of retail partnerships only, it's very hard to change things. And I think the mistake that we're making is that we kind of push this digital native type of narrative to every company in the world, and not everybody has the same speed and availability to make changes. There are divisions when I work, because I work mostly with retail right now, there are divisions within retail companies that are more agile and the ones that test and implement things fast, but it's just a proportion of the business, because when you work retail partnerships and you sell offline, the stakes are very high. Like you cannot fuck up. So I think my answer to your question is it depends on the business model. It depends on that company is structured to make money. For retail, classic traditional retail specifically is very hard. Yeah. That's my 2 cents. Am I boring you guys? I feel like you guys are like quiet. Like, am I boring?
Oh, I'm deep in thought about that because it's so.
That's what my husband said to me when I asked him if he listened to me. It's like, yeah, I'm just deep in thoughts.
I think I was thinking, basically, from what you've said, right, you know, these algorithms, and I literally wrote down as you're talking, is our algorithms killing creativity, right? Because if everyone's optimizing towards this one thing, right, though if I think of some of the most iconic ads over the last like 10, 15, 20, 30 years, I don't think they followed a recipe for success. And I'm just curious how much are algorithms going to make us all regress to the mean?
That's a great question.
Where everyone's going to do exactly the same because an algorithm has conditioned them to sort of like optimize for something that's going to get them the best chances of being seen by the right audience at the right time.
It's an excellent question. And I want to say that the platform best practices are not related to the team of the messaging, the positioning, like nothing to the qualitative component of the asset. So this ABCDs, for instance, for YouTube or what I'm mentioning here, these best practices are only related to the format. So for instance, in ABCD, do you have a dynamic start? Do you mention the brand in the first 5 seconds? Do you have product visuals? Do you have a product mention? Do you have a visible face? Do you have a call to action? So like this is very specific tactical elements of the asset. It's nothing strategic. So this does not affect the creativity that you have or you would have.
But it does though. But I would argue that it does. And I'll tell you why, right? Think a good ad is designed to evoke some kind of feeling.
Mm-hmm.
But when you have to optimize it to get the brand in, to get this in, to get that in, to do this, to do that, you're kind of like squishing that creativity layer because it's now like, well, actually, let's say I work for a really cool nutrition brand like Huel. that was not a plug. And we had to lead with the product, the brand name, the messaging. We then are bound by that, and we couldn't lead with the feeling of like just inspiring someone. You know, and that doesn't, like, Nike don't lead with Nike. They lead with something that makes you feel something.
But that's basically what, like, the part here is, what is the campaign goal? Because if you have a campaign goal that is awareness, yes, go crazy. This doesn't apply to every campaign. So when you have a campaign, you have an ad set. So you have specific ads that are made for inspiration, awareness, evoke feelings. But then you have some specific ones that, let's say I saw that inspirational ad about Fuel and I'm excited. I want to lose some weight. I'm trying to stop eating fried chicken every time. I have a problem. And then Fuel decides to retarget me. If Fuel retargets me with the same asset, I'm going to get fatigued. So Fuel needs to come up with a different ad set. So in order for me to see the ad set, it has to have some specific things on a specific platform. So I would say I totally get what you're saying. And in theory, what you're saying is true, because people will just end up slopping and just doing things without thinking about, and it does kill creativity. But I will say a company that knows what they're doing and a media team that knows what they're doing, well, it's kind of like you pick your battles. You have the awareness campaign, which is, purely inspirational. It's cool. It's fun. You put something in the subway. You put something on TV that is, out there. But then if you want to retarget these people, you cannot retarget them with the same concept. You want to sell, right? Like, that's the purpose of advertising.
Yeah.
So
Okay, so I think I understand. So you're saying like our overall campaign strategy needs to be driven by the creative, the brand, the vision, if you will, like the feelings you want to evoke. But then as you go down that creative funnel and the marketing funnel, each asset and each moment or creative or piece of targeting needs to then ladder up to the top piece. But if you're operating in the performance marketing space, you need to make sure that this ABCD part is ticked off, because by this point you should hope that the awareness, the feelings are already there, and now you're kind of like capturing that demand you've created. I'm not sure if we'll have time, but Dan, I want to ask one last question, because all of this has been great, but this is not a marketing podcast, and I think we've covered a lot of cool stuff in here. And to be fair, I think no, it's absolutely okay. I think the lines of marketing, analytics, data, they're all blurring anyway, right? So I would very much expect a very a marketing podcast to be talking about data, right? And so I think it's
response surface. I said, I said factorial, ANOVA, I said decomposition, I said all the right data words.
So I guess my final question is to ask, how do you then measure all of this, right?
Excellent question.
Which is because as an industry, we've been so, again, I use the word conditioned to measure click-based interactions. And if you're suggesting that the marketing strategy goes from sort of like awareness and feeling evocation, is that the right word? I don't know, right down to the click and then the purchase. How do you bridge all of that together? And what are your thoughts on connecting all these things?
In 2 sentences.
In 2 sentences. It depends. No, I mean, I don't know if I can answer in 2 sentences, but I will say that what is really cool is that besides traditional funnel data that we all know and love, this is a great opportunity of enrichment. So all the stuff that I do on the outside using qualitative data, using different unstructured data, I layer into the traditional behavioral data that you can still get. Media platform data as well. There's a lot of modeling involved. Like, you cannot just use a tool out of the box. Like, it's very rare for me to see any tool that I can just use out of the box. Like, it does require a level of depth and complexity, which I think that's why we're still employed, Bhav. It does require a lot of customization. I will say that I don't find myself these days that much working with analytics tools. I do kind of focus more on the platform data and model the platform data. And I see Google itself trying to, basically blur the lines between what is GA4 or Google Ads, for instance. Everything is going into that direction of behavior and advertising data. I will say that CRM data is still slept on. And I still think that not enough people understand first-party data and have the strategy actually implemented where this first-party data is brought into advertising, which I think it's a mistake. And I know we're saying we added server size to do that, but it's not enough to have server size. You do need a bit of strategy behind. I think analytics matters. I don't do it in the classic way as I used to do it, but I do feel like what I'm doing right now is kind of like needed on top of what we can do in traditional ways, and I haven't found a tool that solves for that. I think what I advise anybody listening to this podcast is to try to learn SQL and Python as much and as faster as they can. And yes, you can use Claude. I use Claude too. I'm a mediocre Python coder, but at least learn the basics and the libraries and understand how these things work so you can collaborate with the model. And yeah, I don't know if this answered. It's a complicated question, but
It's a complicated question. I agree.
But I do
and
say, yeah, unstructured data definitely brings and enriches what you get in a traditional way from analytics tools.
and then do you
Can I-
communicate it? Sorry, go on, Dan.
No, I was just going to say, I think I just want to echo something that I've seen change quite rapidly in the last couple of 6 to 12 months, is that the reality is that I don't think any business model, what you said, Juliana, around there's no out of the box solution for this stuff. I think
No.
you've got to, and I think kind of similarly to where prompting has changed how we communicate with information a little bit. Knowing what it is you want or what you're solving for and the context around that is by far the most important thing in any kind of LLM based communication. Not do we have data? Is it complete? Is it accurate enough? And all this other stuff. It's do you know what you want? Right? Those questions you said at the beginning of the episode, right? Are you asking stupid questions that are the kind of your okay, thanks questions, Bhav, or something like that? And I think it goes the same here. It's there's no measurement solution that fits every business out of the box that you can plug and play into. And it's the same when it comes to data. I work more with structured and unstructured data now than ever, but I've never done the same thing twice in two different organizations.
Exactly.
And they're similar concepts, but it's never the same. The people are different. The platforms are different. The data's different, and it requires that. And I don't think there's a quote unquote maturity level to get to before you start doing that. I think that has come right down. And I think you've got to have a database. You've got to have SQL. You've got to have these products, these tools, and you've just got to get on with it. And whether you use kind of large language models to kind of break down the accessibility into these tools or not, there is no such thing as an out of the box thing.
And I think one other thing just to add to that is that all these things have changed, but also the way you communicate has now changed as well. I think people are reaching a point of fatigue of these really long AI documents that have been produced, and it's kind of look, just give me the summary, give me the headline of what it is. And I come from a background where I think good analytics work needed that deep dive, but actually now the output has to be so what.
Yes.
It has to be so what.
Yes, agreed. Nobody has time. Last time I touched a dashboard was in December because people don't want to know. Just give me the TLDR. As when I started working on this YouTube product, I had the dashboard in mind, all this, overview and glossary. It's I just want to know the 3 things I need to change. Juliana, we don't have time for this. So nobody cares. It's us being in love with our ideas and the techniques. Because I find myself so in love with the technical stuff, and my manager always tells me, it's bro, nobody cares. It's Peppa, do you see this distribution here? You see the curve? It looks so good. And he's nobody cares. I'm damn, bro.
It's true. We love the smell of our own farts, right?
No, they don't
Sorry,
care.
I couldn't resist. I couldn't resist that one. Right, Juliana, that brings us to time.
We've got a handful of minutes left, but I'm really keen to kind of end slightly differently, Juliana, and just ask you what keeps you inspired? What keeps you motivated to keep pushing ahead and doing this kind of stuff and changing all the time? You're quite a prolific writer. You're a good thinker. That's why we wanted to talk to you here. But what drives that for you?
No, I'm just trying to pay my mortgage. I don't know. I'm actually gonna sign a mortgage soon. I don't know. I guess. Thank you. Yeah. I don't know, dude. I'm just I like the craft a lot. I like math, and I think I don't know. I just like to build stuff. It gives me satisfaction to see that I can build something and people use it, and I just move on to build a new thing. I don't know. I have no inspirational answer to end this podcast. I'm just trying to do things. I test things. I'm not different than nobody else. Just trying to do stuff and then hang out with my kids and watch anime. That's I don't know. Did you expect something inspirational? Yes, I'm inspired by the tumultuous growth of the market and the incline.
If you said that, I would have called you up on it, so it's all good. I appreciate the honesty.
I have nothing to I get inspired by people sometimes, for sure. There's a lot of people that I respect, including you guys. Bhav, you've been there for me since the beginning. Genuinely, and I said this story so many times, if you want to hear it, go back to a previous episode we recorded. I just like doing shit. That's it.
It's a good question to ask, though. I think it's a good
It's
thing to reflect on.
But
Someone
it's
asked me
hard to
recently.
answer it. It's
It
really
is,
hard for
yeah.
me to answer it because I don't know, bro. I'm just trying to do things. Money, that's the answer. Money.
There we go. All right. Well,
But
look, thank you. Thank you so much, Juliana. And I know you've got to jump off, but yeah, appreciate it. We'll catch up soon at the next event, the next podcast meeting of sorts, or whatever it happens to be.
thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us, Juliana. All the best.